The Valkor didn't understand softness. Their scales were diamond hard. Their claws could shred titanium. And their young emerged from eggs, already capable of drawing blood. So when Raya Thorn arrived on Station Krevsha as the human liaison, they looked at her pink skin and blunt fingers and made their judgment. Soft. Commander Zethris had hissed, the Valkor word carrying layers of meaning. Weak, foolish, prey. Raya had smiled and said nothing. She'd learned long ago that humans didn't need to prove themselves with words. The station orbited a dying star, a salvage operation harvesting rare metals from the system's collapsing planets. Humans were new to the Galactic Compact, still proving they deserved a seat at the table. Raya's job was simple. Observe, learn, don't embarrass her species. For 3 months, she watched the Valkor work. They were efficient, brutal, and utterly without sentiment. When a mining drone malfunctioned and crushed a worker's leg, they severed it without anesthetic. When food rations ran low, the weak simply received less. It was logical, they explained. Resources went to those who could use them best. Raya took her notes and kept her opinions quiet. Then the fire started. It began in Sector 7. A plasma leak that turned the station's oxygen-rich atmosphere into an inferno. Alarms shrieked as bulkheads slammed shut, containing the blaze, but trapping dozens inside. The Valkor moved with practiced precision, sealing sections and venting atmosphere. Within minutes, they'd saved the station. They'd also condemned everyone in Sector 7 to burn. Acceptable losses, Zethris announced, his vertical pupils fixed on the status board. Sector 7 held only nursery workers and hatchlings, non-essential personnel. Raya's blood went cold. The nursery? 12 adults, 27 juveniles. Zethris clicked his claws dismissively. The gene pool is sufficient to absorb the loss. She was moving before she realized it, sprinting toward the sealed sector. Behind her, she heard Zethris bark something in Valkor, probably ordering her to stop. She didn't. The bulkhead was a wall of heat. Through its small viewport, she could see orange flames dancing in the corridor beyond. Her datapad showed the internal temperature at 800 degrees Celsius and climbing. Unsurvivable, by any reasonable measure. Raya overrode the lock. The heat slammed into her like a physical blow. Even through the emergency suit she'd grabbed from the wall locker, she could feel her skin beginning to cook. Humans, she'd once learned, were mostly water. Water that was currently trying to boil inside her. She ran anyway. The Valkor had built their station strong but simple. Raya navigated by memory, even as smoke turned the world into a gray hell. Her suit's oxygen supply hissed steadily, buying her maybe 10 minutes. The nursery was 2 corridors away. Then, through a communal chamber. Then, she found the bodies first. 3 Valkor adults, collapsed near the nursery entrance. Their scales, which could turn aside blades, had cracked in the heat. She didn't stop to check if they were alive. Inside the nursery, the temperature was somehow worse. The eggs were designed to incubate in heat, which meant the room had been kept deliberately warm. Now, it was an oven. Most of the eggs had already cooked through, their shells brittle and dark. But there, in the corner where a cooling vent still pumped desperately movement, a cub. Too young to have left his egg more than a few days, his scales still soft and translucent. He chittered weakly, instinctively crawling toward her, as the only living thing in sight. Raya scooped him up. He was hot to the touch, but alive. She could feel his tiny heart racing against her palm. "Got you, Kiv," she whispered, reading the designation etched on his enclosure. "I've got you." Getting out was harder than getting in. The flames had spread, cutting off her original route. Her suit's alarms were screaming now, warning of critical heat exposure. The visor was fogging. She couldn't tell if it was from smoke or if her eyes were actually boiling. She chose a different path. Longer, but less engulfed. Each step felt like walking through molten glass. The cub Kiv squirmed against her chest, and she held him tighter, shielding him with her body. Her suit failed at corridor junction B7. The seals gave out, and suddenly she wasn't protected anymore. Just a soft human body in an inferno. She could smell her hair burning. Her lungs screamed for air that wasn't superheated poison. Raya walked faster. The bulkhead appeared ahead like a mirage. She couldn't feel her legs anymore. Wasn't sure if she was actually moving or just imagining it. But then hands scaled. Clawed hands were grabbing her, pulling her through. She collapsed on the cool metal floor of the safe zone, and someone pried Kiv from her arms. She wanted to protest, to make sure he was okay. But her throat wouldn't work. Above her, Commander Zethris stared down. His reptilian face was unreadable, but his crest was fully extended, a Valkor sign of extreme emotion. Soft, he said again, but this time the word was different. Not an insult. A question. Raya coughed, tasting blood. Medical teams were swarming now, scanners beeping frantically over her ruined body. Through the chaos, she saw a medic cradling Kiv, checking his vitals. The cub chirped weak, but alive. Not soft, she managed, her voice a rasp. Human. She passed out then, but not before seeing Zethris drop to one knee, a gesture of respect she'd never seen a Valkor make to another species. The recovery took weeks. Raya's burns were severe enough that they'd had to regrow large sections of her skin. But she survived, because humans were absurdly difficult to kill, their bodies clinging to life through damage that would drop most species. Kiv survived too. And when he was old enough to understand, they would tell him about the soft human who walked through fire because she decided he mattered. The Valkor never called her soft again. They had a new word for Raya Thorn, one that translated roughly to foolish courage, but carried the weight of highest honor. They called her human, and they finally understood what that meant.